Welcome to the High Vibe Soul Podcast, a space where we discuss personal growth, spirituality, motherhood, relationships, and shifting old paradigms so that you can live your most authentic, soul-aligned life. I'm your host, Lindsay, and I founded the High Vibe Soul Company to empower women and support them in becoming their highest, brightest selves. From my light to yours, I am so grateful you're here. Hello, friends. Welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to share this episode with you today. It's my most special episode I've ever recorded to date because I'm finally sharing that I am pregnant with our fourth child. We are having a baby girl sometime in, I'm going to say March. I don't want to say April. We'll say March. It's been a wild, incredible, inspiring journey. So I hope that this episode inspires you. I hope it expands you in some way. And I hope that you can share this with anyone who you feel like it would be helpful for, because I'm going to touch on our decision of going from 3 to 4, which was a very long, arduous process. I'm going to share all the signs, synchronicities, and things that led us here, how I tuned into my intuition for it. I'm going to share also my pregnancy journey because it was not an easy one. I went through IVF for this baby, so I'll touch on that. And I hope this also expands you if you are someone who is in your late 30s or 40s and you're feeling worried about having a child at this stage in this age. I hope that this episode will help reduce some of the stigma around having a child in your 40s, because I'm 41, I'll be 42 when she's born. If you've never tuned in before, I'm a mother of 3. I have a son who's about to be 8, a daughter who is 5, and another daughter who is 3. Now, we had our 3 kids within 4 years. Hudson is 2.5 years older than Kenzie. Kenzie's a year and a half older than Coco. It was very, very intense. I do not recommend doing that on purpose because there were times where I felt like it was going to break us as individuals, as a couple. It was a lot. The first year, we always joke that we blacked out because it was just like survival mode, especially with the girls, because when you have them so close together, what people don't realize is you have a big baby and you have a little baby. And the big baby doesn't understand why the little baby is now getting all the attention. It's a lot, even if you have support and help, which we did. We had great childcare lined up, and it still was very intense. I had Coco in March of 2022. And that birth was really, really hard for me because it was an unplanned C-section, and I ended up having horrific postpartum depression and anxiety afterwards, just from the whole situation. I have an episode on it that I'll link in case you're curious. So a month after she was born, I looked at my husband and I was like, "You've got to get your vasectomy like now. I can't go through this again." I was deep in, hormones, anxiety, depression. I don't recommend making big life decisions from that space. I recommend letting your emotions and your hormones balance first, but it is what it is. So Kevin got his vasectomy a month after Coco was born, and that was that. Now, fast forward to summer 2023. Coco was probably 15 months old, Kenzie was 2, and Hudson was 5. We are on summer vacation, and I realize I hadn't started my period. My period was a week late, which is really, really strange for me because my periods are always like clockwork. Once they go back after the hormones are done, always on time. So that was very strange. So I am spinning that whole vacation. I'm panicking and freaking out that I am pregnant with our 4th child. How am I going to do this? The kids are still so young. They still need so much from me. I, at the time, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I hadn't opened this business yet, but I had an idea of creating a guided meditation platform. So I started working on that pretty diligently. And so I'm like, no, this is not the plan. My logical mind was panicking. We get home from vacation. I still haven't started my period. And I start letting my mind wander a little bit. I'm like, okay, if this is meant to be, it's meant to be. And children are always such a blessing. I love being a mother. It's absolutely part of my purpose and we'll handle it. It's going to be okay. Whatever is meant to be is meant to be. I start looking on blogs and different websites, the transition from 3 to 4 kids and what are the perks of having 4 kids over 3. There's not a ton of articles on it, but there was some. And it actually started to get me a little bit excited. A week passes and I ended up starting my period. And I actually was really upset about it. And I realized, wow, I want a fourth child. After I made that decision, I start feeling the energy of another child with me, of what you would call a spirit baby, if you're not familiar with the term. These are your children that are on the other side that haven't crossed over, but you can feel their soul energy with you. I'm an energy healer. I'm super energetically sensitive. So I'm feeling the energy of this child and I can kind of feel into what they would be like. And then I'm getting really excited and I'm feeling like, oh yeah, I really, really want to bring this baby in. I really want this to happen. And at the same time, Hudson starts saying, Mom, I want another baby. Can we have another baby? We should have another baby. So he was feeling the energy as well. I tried to meditate on this and just kind of envision what are the pros and cons outside of my logical mind. Intuitively, what would the pros and cons be? What could this look like for our family? I still had so much emotion about it all, and I was still so up and down. Even though my heart was saying, yes, yes, have another one, my logical mind was still really spinning. So I go on a nature walk one day and I decide to just pray about it before the walk and kind of let my mind daydream about it. And I said, okay, universe, if we are meant to have a fourth child, if this is for our highest and best good, send me clear, unmistakable signs this week. I get in my car after that. I will never forget this moment. I turn on the radio, and the first song that comes on is Good for You. Four, like numerical 4. And I'm thinking, okay, well, that felt like a sign, but gosh, I don't know. It could have been a coincidence. The next song that comes on was 1, 2, 3, 4 by, I think, the Plain White Tees. Like, okay, that definitely felt like another sign. I start seeing 4s everywhere that day. I open up my email, 4 emails. I clear them out. Open it up again, 4 emails. I just kept getting bombarded with 4s, 4s, 4s. That night, I decided to drop into meditation again. And after I meditate, I often like to pull oracle cards. I had this angel card deck and I started shuffling it, and 2 cards immediately popped out. The first one was children, the second one was surrender and release. I mean, you cannot make this stuff up. So I'm still agonizing over this decision. I had mentioned it to my husband and he was like, get away from me. Absolutely not. What are you talking about? You asked me to have a vasectomy right after Coco was born. Who are you right now? But I'm still agonizing over this internally. And I'm in this astrology membership at the time with this famous astrologer. She always recommends people that are healers or do readings, that kind of thing. She recommends the people who are the best of the best. And she recommended someone for spirit baby readings, which I didn't know anyone that did that at the time. I didn't realize that people even specialized in just talking to these spirit babies. Like, how cool is that? I scheduled with this woman, Jess Gray. Jess actually ended up becoming one of my very dear friends. She is total soul family. And I'm just so grateful that we were pulled together that way. It's a fun story now. So I scheduled with Jess, and Jess is super pregnant at the time. She's about to give birth in like 2 weeks, and she was so wonderful. And she was about to have her fourth child. So, again, there are no coincidences. So Jess does the reading for me and she's like, oh yeah, you've got a spirit baby like right here on your energy. And that's why you're feeling like you're consumed by the thought of, do we go for it? Do we not? Do I want to bring this child in? What would that look like? She said, it's because their energy is right on top of you. And I said, is there any chance that my husband's vasectomy might fail and he doesn't even have to be on board with it? And like, it can all just work out. And she said, no, that's not how this soul wants to come. And this soul wants to feel wanted by both parents. And that's just not going to happen. We ended that session. And that night I talked to my husband and I was trying to deliver all the pros that I had found about having a fourth child. But he was just a hard no. He looked at me at one point and he said, Lindsay, I will crumble. And I looked at him and I could feel that from him. And I knew he was right. And I had to honor his capacity because our capacities are different. I have a bigger capacity for parenting and for patience with the children and for all things child related. I just have a bigger capacity. It's just how I'm built versus him. And I knew he was right. He would crumble. And I cried and cried. And still, for months after that, I could still feel this baby with me. Like, can I come in? Can I not? And I couldn't get him on board. And I didn't want to overly push it because he just gets frustrated with that. I knew I had to let it go. And I remember praying still, please, God, please let Kevin's vasectomy fail. It did not. Eventually, by the end of that year, I decided, okay, I have to let this go. And I need to be happy with having these three children. We are so blessed. We are so fortunate. I'm so grateful for three healthy children and for this life we've been able to build. So I just need to let this go. Even deciding that, this little piece of my heart always felt like I wish we could have a fourth child. I still felt like I wanted that fourth child, even though I had let them go. I found myself bringing it up with friends and neighbors and even new mom friends about how I wish we could have one more. But then I would say this, I had created this story in my head. I wish we could have one more. If only we had started younger. That was my story. If only we had started younger and we could have spaced the kids out more. I wish we could have had one more. So fast forward now from 2023 to January 2025, the beginning of this year. We have just potty trained Coco and we're feeling really good about it because she took longer to potty train. So we're so happy. She's about to be out of her crib. She's about to be 3 years old. And Kevin and I have this whole conversation. Wow, this is a whole new world opening up for us. We're moving into a new stage. Because if you have kids, you know that 3 is a real game changer. It's a tough age, I'm not gonna lie, but it also is a much more independent age. Once they potty train, they move to a bed, they just understand more, they can communicate so much more clearly. They basically go from being this kind of toddler into a full-blown little kid. So we're thinking, yes, we can start traveling again because we never really travel. This opens up a whole new world. So we have that conversation. A week later, I have a dream. And let me preface by saying, I sometimes have prophetic dreams. I get a ton of messages in my dreams. I'll get questions answered in my dreams. Sometimes I'll have loved ones who have crossed over come and chat with me in my dreams. I mean, it's wild. And it's been like this my whole life. So I always set the intention at night to remember anything that's for my highest good. I have a dream that I am in this giant sort of pool. I'm standing up and I'm looking around going, what am I doing in here in this beautiful pool of water? And the sky is clear behind me. All of a sudden, I feel like, oh, wow, wait a minute, I'm giving birth. And there's zero pain. It was so peaceful. It was just magical. I start giving birth standing up, which is pretty much how I gave birth to Kenzie. And all of a sudden, this little baby just pops out, and I put them on my chest and I looked at them and I said, I'm finally ready for you. The amount of love I felt in my heart at that moment, like I'm getting full chills right now. It was incredible. It felt like how you feel after giving birth. I woke up with a start and I'm like, what the hell was that? Oh my gosh, that was so real. I want that baby back on my chest. Like I couldn't stop thinking about that baby and I had tears coming down my face and I'm like, I need this baby with me right now. I was so sad that I woke up from that dream. After that, I could not stop thinking about having a fourth child again. I could not stop imagining what it would be like adding a fourth at this stage with my kids being older, all in school every single day, and how that would look, how that would feel, how that would expand us as a family, expand me as a person, as a mother, because every single child is a rebirth of who you are and an expansion of who you are. There's always some sort of spiritual awakening that happens for me, which is really, really wild. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I was imagining what it would be like to have our children pair off because with three, there is always one that's kind of left out. I was imagining the older kids now being able to take care of this little one and actually remembering it all. I was envisioning us all in a circle around this little baby as they're giggling and laughing and just feeling so much joy and so much love, and just how that would look for our family. I was pretty much sold after that dream. I don't typically talk about my decisions with people. I really like to go inward, and I trust my intuition 1000%. I've worked so hard to develop my intuition, but I did talk to a few very trusted friends about this, and they said, "Oh, Lindsay, you never stopped wanting that fourth child. This makes perfect sense." And they said, "You finally have the space." Of course, that's when this child would come in because you're no longer at capacity. You have the space. I had one friend who really helped me who has four kids of her own. And I said, I'm a little bit scared about starting over because we are in such a different place now with the kids. And she goes, Lindsay, you're not starting over. You're not starting from square one where you knew nothing going into motherhood. You're just expanding. And that will stick with me for the rest of my life. Thank you, Ashley, if you're listening. I still went back to making a list of pros and cons and looking up the blogs and the articles. I did have that moment where I felt like age was a factor, even though in my mind I'm like 29 forever and I feel like I'm so, so young at heart. But I will be 42 when this child was born. So I did have that moment of like, okay, when this child is my age, I'm going to be in my 80s, whereas my parents are in their 60s. It's very different. But I also had that thought of, yeah, but I am super healthy and I'll probably live to be 100. So it's going to be okay. And that also shouldn't be a reason why you don't do something. I mentioned that to my friend Jess, and she said, Lindsay, that is complete societal programming that you've taken on. There is no reason why you shouldn't have a baby in your 40s. There are women even in their 50s sometimes having babies. And she said, it doesn't matter how long you live, although I think you're going to live to be like 100 easily. But she goes, it's the quality of your life and how you spend it. And will you regret not bringing in this child because you're worried about the age? Is it even that big of a difference from the other kids? And I'm like, yeah, I guess that's a really good point. I had really taken on that societal conditioning, and I'm so glad that she brought that to my attention. I actually, after that, Googled famous people who have had children in their 40s and 50s, and there are so many people that will pop up when you Google that. That actually was really, really good for me to see, and it helped my mindset a lot. So, as I'm going through this, I haven't talked to Kevin yet. I'm just very internally processing this for the week. And I'm also wondering, how would we even do this? I'm researching reversing vasectomies, and I'm finding sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes it takes up to a year to work, which seems like a really long time to wait, considering how intensely I was feeling like I wanted this baby all of a sudden. As I'm mentally wrangling all of this, of course, as always, the universe sends me another sign, another synchronicity, which I'm so thankful for. My friend comes over with her son, and she shows me this picture, and she goes, oh, my husband just sent me this picture of this super cute baby, but I don't even know who this is. Her husband is a urologist, as luck would have it for us. He texts her back and he tells her, that is the child from this sperm retrieval that I did 2 years ago for this couple. Then they went through IVF, and that's their almost 2-year-old child now. And they sent me that picture. I had no idea that was even a thing. I didn't know that you could do a sperm retrieval, aspiration, whatever you want to call it, where you just remove the sperm, but you keep the vasectomy intact. That was exactly what I needed to know. That night, I bring it up to my husband, and I'm so nervous to talk to him about this again, almost 2 years later. And I tell him, and he's just shocked. And then he thinks I'm joking. He's like, "You're kidding, right? You're joking. You don't actually mean that you want a fourth right now. We just talked about, how we're moving to this next stage." And I said, "Oh no, I'm dead serious. I've been thinking about this nonstop all week." And he's like, "Okay, I just don't even know what to say right now." He was very overwhelmed. So I just let him be. but I kept planting little seeds every so often. He's someone who really takes a longer time to process, and I know that about him, and he's very internal. He doesn't talk through it. So I knew I just had to let him be for a while. That weekend, my son has baseball evaluations, and another beautiful universe synchronicity sign happens for us. We go to evaluations, and the man who's running it happens to be an old coworker of my husband. We're chit-chatting with him. He's super nice, and he's got two of his kids there, and we're talking about his family. I said, "Oh, how many kids do you have?" And he said, "4." I said, "What are their ages?" And he tells me their age gap. It is the exact age gap we would have a year from having a baby. It is the exact same age gap, all the kids. And my jaw drops on the floor, and I kind of look at Kevin to see if he picked up on it. And I ask him, "How was the transition from 3 to 4? What's it like having 4 kids? What's it like having that last one a little bit later?" He's telling us, and it's all very positive, even though it sounds like this fourth child was an unexpected blessing, but it's all very positive, and it's getting me really excited. And I feel like that was something Kevin really needed to hear too. So a few weeks go by. I'm still kind of planting little seeds. I also researched with my husband's company, is IVF covered if you've had a vasectomy? Shockingly, fully covered. We would have to pay a very small amount, which is incredible. I tell Kevin that as well. We're sitting on the couch one night, and he just casually says, "So I talked to Nick." And I'm like, Nick who? And he tells me, and it's our urologist friend. And he said, "Yeah, he thinks we should go the IVF route. It's a bit more of a sure thing because vasectomy reversals don't always work. There can be a lot of pain with it." Da, da, da. So he's telling me all this, and I'm starting to process, oh my gosh, he wants to have a fourth child. He wants to go through with this. And I'm like basically jumping up and down by the end of the conversation, hugging him. And I'm like, "Wait, so you want to do this?" And he goes, "Yeah, let's do it." So that was February. That was February of this year. We get an IVF initial appointment with someone that's recommended by our urologist friend in March. So we're very fortunate because sometimes these appointments can take 2 or 3 months. So we get an IVF appointment in March, and I was a little bit shocked about how this goes. And if you've been through IVF, send me a message. Let's chat about it if this was your experience or if this was just my clinic. But the beginning of her presentation, it felt like this is something they have to do maybe for legal reasons or just covering their butts. I don't know. But the first portion of the presentation was her showing us a PowerPoint of basically how hard it is to get pregnant every month, and then showing us fertility rates and how they decline with age and da da da. My coaching and mentorship is mindset coaching, and I'm an energy healer. I'm all about mindset and energetics. So the entire time she's giving this presentation, I'm saying in my mind, "I do not consent to this. This is not my truth. No, 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 no." But I'm smiling. Okay, sure. Give us this presentation. And she definitely brought up our age multiple times, which was a little bit frustrating, but I just let it go. And then we had our blood work. And everything looked really good with my husband's labs. Everything looked good with my labs, except I have extremely low ovarian reserve, which is how many eggs that you have left. And she said that's normal. That's what I would expect to see for somebody in their 40s. But we used to not even treat fertility for that low of an egg reserve. But things have come a long way. And I vividly remember her saying, "I think there's hope." And I left that call feeling like, I know we're supposed to use this doctor. I could feel we were supposed to use her. I wasn't loving her mentality necessarily, but I know how she is clinically, and she is one of the best. Again, I just said in my mind, no, that's not my truth. This dream was not planted in my heart for no reason. And I know that even if I go through this whole process and we don't end up with a baby at the end, there's a reason I'm going through this. So I'm just going to trust that. But I do trust also that we are meant to have this fourth child. This dream's been planted in my heart now for almost 3 years. So I just did not take that on as my truth. I have other podcasts that I recorded along the way throughout my IVF, and I will release everything I did holistically to support the IVF process, mind, body, spirit. But for now, I will just share that my first egg retrieval did not go well. because when you have low ovarian reserve, typically you're not a great responder to the medication. And they had me on so much medication, which I am a very holistic girly. I don't even take Advil for a headache. And so it made my body feel nuts. I gained a bunch of weight, which was not fun. And it was just really intense for my emotions. We almost canceled the cycle. She gave me the option. She said, "Do you want to cancel the cycle or not? We could go either way." I had two follicles that grew to the size that they needed to release a mature egg. I said, "I want to do it. I feel like we still need to go forward with the cycle." And we did get two eggs that cycle. My doctor wanted me to get 10. She said, "I want 10 for one healthy baby based on your age." She wanted me to go through 3 cycles. After the first cycle, I looked at my husband. I was like, "I'm only doing this one more time." But I truly trusted my intuition that one more time was all that we needed to do. So the second egg retrieval, we ended up getting 4 eggs. We had 6 total, and my doctor was still hesitant with me going forward, fertilizing 6 and not going for one more round. But I said, "Nope, I'm done. This is all we need. I just know it in my heart." And she said, "Okay." The amount of mindset coaching I had to do on myself during the IVF process was next level. The amount of meditation I did on holding the highest vision, holding the highest outcome, holding that feeling in my heart of what I desired. I created guided meditations and affirmations for myself to get me through it. I listened to my affirmations constantly. I talked to my body about what was happening. I thanked my body. I sent my body gratitude every day. "Thank you so much for doing this for me, for creating these healthy eggs." I mean, the amount of work I did emotionally, energetically, mentally on myself spiritually during this process, it was such an initiation. And this is something I actually would love to coach women on as well. It's something I'd like to add into what I do now because there is no mindset piece of IVF, at least at my clinic. They didn't even say, "Hey, you should listen to a guided meditation or affirmation throughout this to keep your mindset high." It was all very, very clinical, and they're really missing such an important piece of this. While all this was going on, I had so many moments where I was just crying between the hormones and the whole, is it even going to work? Because, of course, I'm very attached to the outcome. I'm doing this because I want a child. I would let myself move through emotion, cry about it, and then come back to, yes, it's going to work. Yes, it's going to work. And I started asking for signs. I asked for signs from my spirit baby. I asked for signs from the universe. I remember very vividly when I came back from the one appointment where they said you only have 2 follicles that are growing and we might cancel the cycle. And I got in my car and I was crying. That whole next day, all I saw was 111, 1111, 111, 1111, which is all about holding the highest vision and intention and manifestation and how your thoughts create your reality. And it was really like, remember what you need to be doing here. Don't let yourself sink into the what ifs. Come back to faith and the energy of, yes, this is all working out for my highest good. Every time I felt like I was faltering in my mindset, I would just ask for a sign, and every time I got a sign. I went to a sound bath at one point throughout this. I was doing a lot of energy healing on myself. I was being very consistent with going to sound baths and anything that would just really relax my body. And I went to a sound bath. At the beginning of the sound bath, she said, "I'm going to do something a little different. I have these oracle cards, and I want everyone to pick an oracle card, and this will kind of represent your energy for the sound bath." And I picked this card. If you're watching on YouTube, I'll hold it up. It's a picture of a woman with rainbow hair holding a little girl, and the bottom says family. Not only is this obviously a mother holding a little girl, but the reason this is so significant, if you don't know, is because I do a type of energy healing where I work with the archangels and I work with the rainbow energy of God, source, universe, and call that in. I created sort of my own version, but I was trained in rainbow energy healing. So when I got this card, I was floored. That was such a beautiful sign from my spirit baby, and I was so grateful. I started seeing fours again everywhere. I started seeing families with 4 kids constantly, which you never really see that. So I really felt like all the signs were there that it was going to work out. But I did tell myself at one point, my happiness is not contingent on this 4th child. And my husband said the same thing. Look, we are in a great spot. We have 3 beautiful children who are thriving. We have an amazing family, an amazing neighborhood. We are so blessed in so many ways. Would I still be devastated if I didn't get pregnant after all of this? Yeah, of course. But I started to realize that part of the reason I think I had to go through IVF was to help other women through this, whether it be through coaching or through these guided meditations and affirmations that I will be releasing probably in January, maybe December. So be on the lookout for those. But I could really see that there was a higher purpose with all of this. Now, we ended up having 2 genetically normal embryos out of 6, which my doctor was floored because, like I said, she wanted 10 eggs, and she said, out of those, you might get 1 healthy embryo. Well, we got 2, and they ended up both being girls. So we were very much meant to have another girl. Hudson is very much meant to have sisters, and we ended up getting pregnant with the first one. And so here we are now. I'm halfway through my pregnancy. I can't even believe it. My microphone got cut off. I don't know what happened with my internet there, but I just wanted to add a little bit to the end. I would have never guessed in a million years that I would be having my 4th child. I'll be 42 when she's born. And not just because age is just a number. I'm forever 28 at heart, but really because I just never envisioned having more than 2 kids my entire life. It was never part of my quote plan, but it feels so, so right. And I'm just so thankful that I have cultivated my intuition and my connection with my heart and my soul to get to this point and to feel that I now have the capacity to hold these 4 children and as well as my business. It's such a blessing. It's really incredible as well looking at my numerology. And if you don't know, I'm obsessed with numerology. I thought I was going to become a numerologist at one point. I just fell in love with it. It felt like a deep resonance and a deep knowing of something, like I was relearning something when I took my numerology classes. But when I had my son Hudson, my first child, I was in my 1 year. And now I will be in my 9 year when I have this child. So if you don't know, numerology goes in 9 year cycles. The 1 is the beginning, the 9 is the end. And so how perfect is that, that it's really the closing of a chapter, the end of an era of making babies and finally moving on to that next stage. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'll show you here my belly. It is large. I swear that it expanded the day I peed on that stick to see if I was pregnant, but that's how it goes when you have your 3rd, 4th, and beyond child. She's healthy and I'm feeling really, really good. I have SPD again, which is like where your pelvic floor, basically like the pubic area and the ligaments and everything stretch really fast, and it's a bit painful, but outside of that, I feel great. And so I'm just going to ride that wave. We're so, so excited. This is going to be amazing. Hudson's going to be 8 years old when she's born. Kenzie will be 5. Coco will be 4. Just a completely different experience from what we had when we had 3 kids in 4 years. So I'm really excited to just slow down and really enjoy this child, and we'll see what that looks like with balancing my business, because I also love my business. I called the High Vibe Soul my 4th baby for so long. I still envision working part-time with her, but I really just want to relish every moment of being a mom of a newborn again. So I will keep you posted, and I have an entire series coming for you on every single stage of IVF that I went through. I have a whole episode on all the holistic things that I did to support this pregnancy. and so much more. I also have an entire series that I've created of trying to conceive meditations, IVF meditations, pregnancy meditations, affirmations. It's going to be really incredible. It's the things that I used throughout this whole process and I'm still using. And so I will release that most likely in January. So thank you for listening. If you are pregnant or trying to conceive and you need some support, I'm here for you. I am happy to do a coaching session or just lend an ear. And I'll see you next time. Thank you so much for listening to the High Vibe Soul podcast. Your support means the world to me. So if you enjoyed this episode, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with a loved one. Sign up for my newsletter and receive 2 free high vibe meditations straight to your inbox. And for more ways to work with me, click the links in the show notes. I would love to hear from you, so send me a message on my Instagram at the.highvibe.soul, and I'll see you next time.